And of course, you are listening to The Light on the mighty 91.7 WLFR Pomona here on the campus of Stockton University. You also may be hearing this on FM 106.5 WPPM in Philadelphia, as well as we are getting into our civic engagement part of the show. As I said before, every Tuesday we do election coverage here on the Light, powered by AtlanticCityFocus.com. And actually, as our June primary is less than a month away, we're going to be pumping out election coverage every day with clips and information that you can use, such as the fact that the deadline for voter registration here in New Jersey is coming up on May 20th, and you can register online here in New Jersey, and in a couple weeks you'll be able to early vote as well. Today we have a special guest with us. He has run for office several times. He's a lawyer, and after the day, I would like to say a good friend of the show, Mr. Tim Alexander. Mr. Alexander, would you like to give yourself a more thorough introduction to let the people know exactly who you are and what you've done?
Sure, and good morning. As you said, I am Tim Alexander. I'm an attorney with the law firm Helmer, Conley & Castleman. I am also a civil rights activist. I did run for office only 2 times, just to be clear. And I ran for Congress in New Jersey's 2nd Congressional District against Jeff Van Drew. My background is 27 years in law enforcement. I worked for the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office and retired as a captain of detectives. Right before I retired, I obtained a law degree, and so I retired on a Friday. And I'd like to say that I was retired for one whole weekend, because that Monday I reported to the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office, where I served as an assistant district attorney in a major trials unit for about three and a half years. After that, I got into civil rights. My first step into it was defending the city of Philadelphia in civil rights matters for about a year before crossing over into private practice, where I took on plaintiff's work as a civil rights attorney, having worked for a couple of different firms. And now it's primarily what I do. I'm also the head of the civil department, so I do a variety of things, as well as civil rights is my specialty. And since this is a political show, I am very much active in trying to get people engaged. One of the things that we were very proud of in my campaign, particularly the second one, was a listening series where we went out into the communities across the district and actually listened to people. Unique to being a politician is closing your mouth and opening your ears. And that's exactly what we did for several months, learning what the issues were, how they differed in different communities across the district, which has 6 counties, parts of 2, and then 4 whole counties. It also has the 3 poorest counties in the state of New Jersey, which is very unique for one of the richest states in the country. And we learned what people wanted from their elected representatives, as opposed to trying to force feed them a message. We developed a message based on what their needs were, followed by research on how we can accomplish those goals. And I believe that that's what every single politician, elected official should be doing, regardless if it's on a school board seat as high as national office. It's very important that as an elected official, you are a representative of the people. And you cannot be a representative of the people if you don't listen to them. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to answer any questions about that as far as civic engagement. I would love to discuss that with the fact that we have lost wide segments of people across all demographics, across all age groups, and we need to bring them back to the voting booths, to get them engaged, to have their voice heard in whatever office is necessary.
All right, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Light. We are powered by AtlanticCityFocus.com. One thing I neglected to say is, if you would like to hear Bruce Weeks again, or actually see that interview, it is available at AtlanticCityFocus.com. And this interview that we're doing with Mr. Alexander will also be available later on this week at AtlanticCityFocus.com. And again, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule especially, I wanted to get you here being that you're not running for office. And full disclosure, uh, I have supported Tim Alexander in the past. In fact, the first time we met, I had to fill in for my man DJ Flair at one of your fundraising events.
Yes.
And that was the first time that we met. So, but I wanted to bring you here being that you're not running for office, and you correct me if I'm wrong. I think, and I'm not saying you, but I'm saying politicians in general sometimes can say things and answer questions more directly when they are not running for office.
Yes, I like to think that I was very transparent and open.
I didn't say you.
Oh, fair enough, fair enough. But I say that only to say that you don't have to be that way. Politicians don't have to do these canned responses to simple questions. They could just answer them. And if they don't know, they could say, I don't know, but they pledge to follow up and then actually follow up with the individual. These things are basic tenets that I think everybody should be doing. And instead, I call them TV politicians, right?
Okay.
They're playing a script like you see on television shows where they give these ridiculous responses to a very basic, simple question. And that to me is just mind-boggling when they want to be your representative. Could you imagine hiring me or another attorney and then asking about the progress of your case and the response is something totally unrelated to what you're dealing with? It can't happen. It doesn't happen. And there would be accountability issues if it did happen. I think the same should be with our politicians. But the downside is we don't have enough accountability. We continue to allow these same evasive politicians to be reelected to hold these offices for decades, in some instances enriching themselves, and it just becomes a bad taste in many people's mouths, mine included, when politicians play these TV roles, as I like to say.
All right, if you're just tuning in, I already got somebody who texted me that they're listening. So let me say this. If you have questions, we're not taking call-ins. We don't take call-ins here. Y'all know why. But if you're a member of the Light Morning Show Facebook group, you can send me a question there. Or if you have my personal text number, you can text in a question and I'll be sure to give it to Mr. Alexander. Okay, so before we get into who's running and what people's jobs are and all that kind of stuff, another reason why I wanted you to come is because this is what I do when I have a politician come on, a candidate come on. I ask them a direct question and I allow them to answer. Unless they say something really far-fetched, I don't really challenge them. Because I feel like I'm not MSNBC, I'm not Fox News. I ask the questions and I let the audience decide whether they like the answer or not. And I reserve my personal comment for, off air or, for wherever. So I say that to say this. As many Democrats or Republicans I've had on the air, I want to say, well, first of all, I'll say this. If the system was working the way it was set up to work, with three co-equal branches of government, all functioning at 75%, America would be a great place to live. Right about now, it seems like the world is on fire, like America is on fire, and this is my opinion, it did not start with the election of Donald Trump. To that you say?
Well, I think I agree with you, and let me give you my response, and you could determine if I agree with you or not. I think we've been on a slide. I think specifically regarding Congress, it has been yielding its powers for decades to the person in the White House, which is the executive branch. So you're talking about the legislative branch and the executive branch, depending on what party's in control. So I hold blame for both parties, both major parties, that
Okay.
the Democrats and the Republicans. I am a Democrat, and so there is no greater critic of the party than I am, because I'm one of them.
Okay. I might have to challenge you on that, but I think I might be a bigger critic, but we'll see.
Okay.
That's why you're here.
And fair enough, but the reality is that it always seems to be a push to get one's agenda through. And we don't have that independence to examine that agenda to see if it's actually good for the American people across all spectrums. Remember, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, Green Party, whatever it may be, if you are in office, you represent everybody. If you're a Democrat, you represent Republicans. If you're a Republican, you represent Democrats. It doesn't matter once you take that oath to whatever office you're going into.
Right.
And we seem to have forgotten that at exponents beyond imagine. Right now, our country, and I'm going to go back to your question a little bit more in detail, but right now our country is in just a terrible slide and departure from the Constitution. And quite honestly, both sides of the aisle in Congress, in both houses, that being the House and the Senate, should be standing up screaming to the top of their lungs that this is a departure from the Constitution, and at this point, and that point, setting aside any kind of agenda or aspirations of the executive branch. Failure to do so should require the judicial branch to do that, being the Supreme Court. But what we're seeing, in my estimation, is that the certain aspects of the legislative branch and a majority of the judicial branch are siding with the executive branch instead of being, what you pointed out, co-equal branches of the government. And we have this joined force together that is creating this chaos and this havoc that, regardless of what political leanings you may have, you're suffering. Regardless of what economic status you have, you're suffering. And wherever you are in demographics and socioeconomics, you are suffering. So your question then is, has this started before the current administration in the White House? Absolutely. And we could go back many, many decades where we could see that some things haven't been the best for America, but we push them through anyway because it's a particular agenda. And we set the stage for the next administration to do it, but more. And then we set the stage for the next administration after that to do it, but more. And so, or I should say, a group of elected officials. And now we're at, I hope, a precipice of so-called the chickens coming home to roost, that we set the stage for this. We've allowed this to happen so long that there's no pushback. There's no accountability. This is the agenda. We either support it or we keep our mouths shut. And to me, that is, and I'm saying that that's a shared party. Of course, opposition always has a voice. But to me, that is the slide that I think you've identified. So I leave it to you to see if I agree with you or not.
Oh yeah, yeah. Here's the thing. Everything that's wrong with the Democratic and Republican parties, we are not going to fix before 10 a.m. today.
Without a doubt. Nor can we discuss everything that's wrong with them because it would take a lot more time.
A lot more time. So I definitely agree, and for people who do not have a full context of history, and I don't, I pretty much, my historical background basically covers from when I was born in '68 up until now. A lot of things that happened in the Johnson administration, I don't, I can't tell you exactly what happened. I basically read from history books, but from the Nixon administration on, even if I wasn't following politics at the time, by the time I became politically aware as a teenager in the 80s, the ramifications of what happened in the Nixon administration were still prevalent. So that's why I kind of know. So I'm just giving you a little historical background of what I know and what I've experienced and what I kind of feel firsthand about. I say all that to say this: the Republicans threw Nixon out on his ear. Whether you agree with Republican values or not, at that particular time, Nixon had crossed the line where his own party said, "Okay, you got to go." And so I don't think that you're going to see this now. We have a president in office, convicted of more than 30 felonies, who has said quite plainly early on when he was running, I could shoot somebody on Park Avenue and, you'd vote for me anyway. Not only would you vote for me anyway, they elected this guy president. And to me, there is there's no pushback or not enough pushback from people in power on either side. So, with that said, I'm going to go to this. Let's talk about the Democratic Party, and I'm going to tell you I'm going to tell you some of the things that I perceive. First of all, I think that when it came to the presidential election, and I've been saying this for years, the Democratic Party has had their own goals in mind, different from what their constituents' experiences have been and what they've had in mind. I was talking to a friend of mine Sunday. It's like if I say I'm going to a Spider-Man convention where everybody's going to dress up like Spider-Man and I want you to come with me. And you say, oh, I don't like superheroes or Spider-Man, so why would I go? But no, you need to go for your own good because this is going to enrich you, it's going to make you better, and you're going to be a better person, and your family's going to be better by going to this Spider-Man convention. How crazy would that sound?
Sounds pretty insane, right?
Sounds pretty insane.
Right.
To me, that has been the Democratic Party for a while now.
So, first of all, I can't disagree with your perception because it's shared by so many, particularly people of color. There is a wide disconnect between the leadership in the Democratic Party and boots on the ground.
Right.
Particularly when those boots are worn by people of color, such as myself. I will say that their response is, I'm sick of you taking advantage of me, I'm not voting for you anymore, is a detriment to one's own self. Because
okay, you brought that. I was going to get to that, but thank you for going there.
Sure, because if you don't have a backup plan to say, okay, I'm not voting for you, but I'm voting for this person, then you've already just pretty much shut yourself out. My response is, I'm not voting for you anymore, but I'm going to find a better candidate to vote for. And I think that's a better message that needs to be sent to the leadership. Right now, in the gubernatorial race in New Jersey, there is at least one politician who has flat out said that he could go out right now, this is a different election time, and get 86% of the black vote without even trying. That is a fallacy, right? But that is that embedded, ingrained belief that people of color, African Americans particularly, will lock arms and march in lockstep with whoever is the Democratic candidate. Right. That ship has sailed probably shortly after the Civil Rights Movement, after the Johnson administration, as far as I could say. I am a studier of history, and I believe in understanding history at all aspects of our country. And we could mark administrations that have been terrible for our country. Starting with my estimation, the Jackson administration with the massacre of First Nation individuals. Okay. And then we could go to the Andrew Johnson administration with the basically rolling back all the progress that President Lincoln had made with respect to the emancipated former enslaved as well as the newly freed. And then we could go to Wilson with the segregation of the military. Then we could go to Nixon. And I'm probably giving some deference to some of the other bad ones as well.
Right.
But the thing with Nixon, your point was well made earlier, right? That
Right.
finally the Republicans said we had enough. But before that, Nixon is the reason why we have this. I'm trying to be as polite as I possibly can.
Just
but
don't curse.
fair enough. Nixon
We're not
invited.
here to be polite today.
Okay. Nixon invited the Southern Democrats into the Republican Party because they didn't like the progress of the Civil Rights Action.
Right.
Hey,
right.
come over here. We are not down with that either.
Right.
So he established the foundation of a party that became exclusive to African Americans, at least a large swath of them, not all,
Right.
and more inclusive to those who held those shared beliefs of segregation and pointing their nose down at, or their nose up at impoverished people of all races.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And then you go to Reagan and think about what Reagan announced his presidency the first time. That historically racist location that he chose to go and say, I'm picking this spot to run for president, sending a message to that particular segment of people.
Right.
And we could go all the way through, and it may seem like I'm targeting Republicans, and perhaps I'm pointing out or explaining why I am a Democrat in a sense.
Right.
But the reality is that the Democrats has just been quiet, right? And that, hey, we're not them, so come over here.
Right. Right.
Without a real message, without
Right,
a real,
right,
with the
right.
exception of the, I think Johnson is probably one of the, under-recognized presidents
Most progressive.
who was so progressive for
Him and Carter.
right, and Carter, both Southern men, right?
Southern men.
And so,
Although, let's be real, Adam Clayton Powell did a lot to push Johnson.
without,
Well, you know what? We get too far in the weeds.
I know, right. So let's get back to it.
Yeah,
Right?
we need to have lunch and just.
Yes. Let's get back to
Right.
what we're talking about. We're talking about taking the African American vote, the Democratic
Right.
African American vote, for granted.
Right.
That is the ultimate issue,
Right.
and I think that is 100% correct. And this is why I say, I identify myself as one of the biggest critics of Democrats, although I am one, is that we have done that historically. Some continue to do that.
Right.
Some are, when a politician starts off with a message saying, well, your people died for the vote, you should be out there supporting and fighting. No, young people don't want to hear that. They want to know, what is in it for me? My roads need to be repaired. My safety needs to be enhanced. My economic opportunity needs to be better. Why are you talking about things that happened in the past as your forefront? We cannot forget it, or we're doomed to repeat it,
Right.
which maybe is our case right now in some aspects. But nevertheless, people today want to hear what is in it for them to vote and support this particular politician. And quite honestly, that's where the message fails. And so we can improve that by actually making proposals that are beneficial to wide swaths of the population, but also identifying how we're going to pay for it. Because if I had an endless bank, I could give you the world, right? I could do all these wonderful things, but the bottom line is we don't have the funds for that. We have to be very careful, otherwise I have to dig in your pocket in order to pay for these proposals.
Okay, well, Donald Trump is finding the funds he's finding the funds to deport people who aren't even here. But I mean, I don't want to, this isn't a debate, but
Well, here's
sorry
the
about
thing.
that.
No. Here's the thing. Donald Trump does not have, and I don't mean to go into a particular politician, but Donald Trump does not have any concern about the deficit. None. This is all smoke and mirrors. If he laid off every single federal employee in Washington or in the country, this is about 4% of the budget. It's nothing. So it's all smoke and mirror with this DOGE program. As far as this immigration is rooted in hate, and all these things people know. But what we don't know is what are Democrats going to do about it?